Hi, this is Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi, and you are listening to Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age. Aaron, you do it better, buddy. I did my best.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All.
One of resistance,
We are a spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the first order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
We're going to welcome you to Storm Reactions number 3, or I don't know what number it is in the Star Wars Reactions timeline. Aaron will put this in as it will. But we are very close to getting your regular hosts back, and you will be so happy once you did after you heard tonight's episode. But in order to create the perfect, non-perfect group chat, I reeled in, I drafted these people. These people are here almost against their will. I'm going to start from, I don't know what the circle of the Zoom is. It doesn't matter if you're listening to this, but I have Mary Perdue here. Mary, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing fantastic, Greg. How about you?
Awesome. I see, just briefly, your place didn't really get hit that hard during the storm, right?
No, we did not. We got a lot of wind. We lost a few shingles. People that are down the street from us lost quite a few shingles, but we were kind of sheltered by other houses, which, tough for them, but good for us, I guess. And we do have a retention pond across from the street, across from our house, but it is very low. It is, when they designed the development that I'm in, they made that retention pond probably 30 feet, 25, 30 feet below the street level. And then plus the houses are up just even a little bit more to that. So we did not get any of that, thank goodness.
That's awesome. Now, Anthony, I forget what show we talked about this on. It might have been mine. I don't know anymore. Force Coast. But we did talk that you did not lose power. You did not suffer any damage. I'm sure you were inspired by Colby's picture. I'm sure you were playing all manners of. That picture actually matches your catalog of music. I mean, you're like, yeah, this
it sure does. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, that guy's probably listening to the Scorpions now as we speak.
As we speak. Well, Ozzy Osbourne was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? So
he was, yeah.
So there we go. Congratulations. That's the only one I remember. And of course, along with Anthony King, we have, how could we not have Disco Leader? We have Ross Hollebon, who we were able to get from a very busy schedule these days, including, I'm set it up. You got to talk to somebody recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to interview Eddie Izzard, otherwise known as Susie Izzard. So she was fantastic and will be performing at the Butler Arts and Events Center a week from now. So
wow.
The CCOM Backstage podcast got the opportunity to talk, had 20 minutes on the dot and made the most of every second of it. So talking about the supporting role that they have in Chaos, starring Jeff Goldblum on Netflix. Talking about, they brought up Star Wars and the Cantina, so it was so awesome because then I was able to share it to Mark Newbold at Fantha Tracks and say, "Hey, Mark, give this a listen. This is kind of one of their hometown people." And he's like, "Yeah, we're absolutely sharing that. Not only is it Eddie Izzard, but they talk about Star Wars on here." So yeah, check it out. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Look up CCOM Podcast, and it will be one of the special backstage episodes of that.
Oh, that's awesome. And, Anthony, who was just at ICCC and, running into people left and right at D23, what I love is, after you do this role, it really prepares you for those times where you're like, I may have a chance to talk to somebody. I may have 2 minutes. I may have 5 minutes. I think it's the experience of doing this, whether you do it like I said, I don't care what the subject of your podcast is, at some point you're going to have that opportunity and you can't really let it go to waste.
That's right. Be prepared with some type of portable recording device so that you can record anything on the spot. If you're in a line for something and you meet somebody, get that thing out and just get some content rolling.
That's awesome. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Ross, can you describe, I know you put it in the chat, but you got a chance to go help out the Baltimore Ravens recently. Can you kind of describe what you were doing there?
Yeah, so just friends that are there. So the Ravens media group and broadcast group, they wire a player for every game. And even back when I worked with them, I used to do the boom mic behind the bench, so getting auxiliary sound. And this was an opportunity to go to Cincinnati. So the Ravens were playing at the Bengals October 3rd, I believe it was. And I was just a runner / protector for the camera guy that was up in the stands. And then I was able to bring a student from Butler who had graduated in 24 who's looking to break into the field. And I got to thankfully watch him run all day long down on the field, chasing the camera. And I was like, that was the wise decision for the old guy.
Better him than you.
An amazing game. Ravens won in overtime. So the whole thing was crazy. I never got to see a replay the entire game. So I thought the Bengals had made the kick at the end because I was on the other side of the goalpost. And then I saw the fan reaction. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is still going. So again, I live a very Forrest Gump life and get a chance to do some amazing things because of great people. And that was fun, and giving Ethan the chance to get his first NFL experience. He's done a production internship for the Chicago Cubs. So he's lived that. And I was just like, baseball's cool. I was like, you're about to get your true sports baptism by being on the field for an NFL game. And I think he was pretty blown away.
You've talked before, Ross, about how, like the different jobs that you've had, and just, not only when we talk about stress, right, the stress of going through like a storm or preparing for this, week to week, where you're really at the beck and call, and you have probably many bosses. And it is something where you really have to keep a lot of that in perspective, because, the season is short. You might be working, year round, but it's like you have those intense number of weeks. And I'm sure that's you probably had a great head of hair before you started in sports. And then afterwards you're like, all right, I'm done. It spit me up and chewed me out.
No, this was really all from being a Washington Capitals fan for my entire life. That's where my hair went.
Well, Anthony, knowing the stress of being, a Philly fan, and, having just to sit there and watch it all, like you have the 76ers hat on, by the way. It's nice.
I know, opening night.
Yeah, happy opening night.
That's right. Yeah. And it's interesting because we have in Chicago the Bulls, Blackhawks, and White Sox. They're Chicago. NBC Sports Chicago is no longer around, so they created this Chicago Sports Network that is over the air at the moment because they don't have deals with Comcast or some of the other partners. And so, they were actually on their website telling people, have you ever heard of an antenna? You should probably go out and get one. And so, I'm checking out the signal. It's not bad. It started off about a couple weeks ago. They launched on October 1st, and it wasn't that good because, like with digital, right, it's either on or it's off. There's not, Mary would know, back in the day, Rosh, when you would watch it and then be like snowing, you're like, well, I can still kind of hear it. I can still kind of see it. It's not as bad as if you were trying to watch, HBO when it was like you didn't have the descrambler or whatever. And you're like, I think that's something. No. Never mind. This is making me ill. But this was just, but it's like with digital, it's either on or it's off. Mm-hmm. And, and then you have to constantly rescan like every couple weeks. I don't know about you. If you have OTA antennas, it seems like it'll lose all the channels and be like, I don't know what's going on. And then you have to reset it, like a PC, like turn it on, turn it off again. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, look at all these channels. And you're like, well, whatever. But And you know what? They have 2 channels, which is interesting. They could actually do a Bulls and Blackhawks game at the same time. So at any rate, that's
Cubs White Sox, which may be more likely happening.
Hey, all I know in my house is that my mother is becoming a huge White Sox fan, and I'm like, we've got between now and the start of the season to get all this stuff organized. Like, because when baseball starts, she's in for 162. So it's like
162, and hopefully it's better for her next year, because this was quite a season to jump on. It can only go up.
Exactly. There's nowhere to go but up on this.
Oh,
Hopefully.
There's no bandwagon there. I mean, they'd probably say you're happy to get off. You don't want this.
I'm just saying,
it's
good
the
seats.
plague wagon.
Yeah, good seats.
Welcome to being a Reds fan.
Oh. Yeah, the glory days for the Reds, long time ago.
We have a new manager this year.
And you know what? It's still on my bucket list. I know, Ross, you have got to go out to see because LJ's down there, the Great American Ballpark, but I still need to make the trek.
Come on down. Let's make a trip of it. It's a great park, and what Cincinnati has done right on the riverfront is incredible.
It is beautiful.
Speaking of baseball and the storm, I mean, the combination of the two is the unfortunate disaster at the Rays Stadium. So as a Rays fan, Greg, how do you feel about the Trop its final days? I mean, I don't think it's coming back next year anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the season was a lot of highs and lows, mostly lows, but a lot of meh, because they ended up almost even, almost breaking even after having to get rid of some players. And yeah, during the storm, it had been sort of a pre-launch site for a lot of first responders. They didn't stay there, obviously. But yeah, if you think about the roof of the Trop, it's a 6-inch. It's not fabric. It's like a fiberglass or Teflon. So it's built to withstand 115 mile per hour winds. And the other thing that a lot of people might not know, and especially when you started following like I did, where they didn't win a lot, when the Rays would win, they would light the top of the Trop orange. So like the Cubs with the flags, you could see from 275, which goes past it, you could see from a large area, you could see if the Rays won or not. And the fact that, they just nearly, they've pretty much all but inked the deals on the stadium. So there'll be a new stadium that starts, but it won't happen for another 3-4 years. They haven't even, they're going to begin to break ground, like in part of the parking lot where the stadium is now. And so there's a very good chance that the damage will not let them go back into the Trop, or it won't make any economic sense to repair that. And the inside of the Trop was also not built like an outdoor stadium. And so there was some damage inside the stadium as well. It's not like, and for those who are not in Florida, the one thing about it is it rains all the time. So it's like, that's one of the reasons why you have to have it covered. And of course, not everybody is like that Seattle or Milwaukee that can kind of bust out a retractable roof and then go through several more losing seasons. And so what's nice about the new stadium when it comes is that it'll be a smaller capacity. I think that's probably going to be the trend going forward for a lot of your smaller markets, is the fact you're not going to need like those multi-purpose stadiums like the Vet or Riverfront Stadium or Three Rivers, Shea Stadium, Oakland Coliseum, rest in peace, that would house multiple teams and really not have great vantage points for anybody, especially if you're in right field and you can't really see if there was a home run or not until you wait for the crowd's reaction. And that was a thing. But yeah, that they might have to play on the road. Well, I want to say, because during Katrina, the Superdome was damaged enough, and I think that was like in August, and they had to play, and so I think they were on the road for about a year. But in this case, it's very likely that the Rays will not be playing at the Trop again, which is incredibly sad. But they'll have to play somewhere, anywhere. And with the amount of fans we have, we can pack those small minor league facilities pretty simple. We can get 12.
We talked about the Ravens earlier. It may have been 24 hours before Katrina hit. We played the Saints just before it hit. So we were really one of the last flights out of New Orleans.
Wow.
So the night before, and it was during training camp. You don't know what's going on in the rest of the world during training camp. Like, it is wake up at 5:30 or 6, and you've got 2 practices, you've got meetings, you've got everything. and then at maybe 10 o'clock or 10:30 you have some free time again. So like you don't pay attention to the rest of the world. So we didn't know we were going down to an area that was expecting a storm, and went out on Bourbon Street, and so much was all boarded up, and it was just like, what's going on here? So the couple places that were still open were just like, yeah, they say a big storm's coming in, and you know, we're gonna tough it out. And once we got home and we're watching, and it was very eerie that night with how large that stadium is, and I don't know, maybe 5,000 people were there. So playing an NFL game, like, and you're hearing individual fans yell things.
Oh man.
It was really interesting, but then it really put things in extra perspective once we were back in Maryland and you're watching the footage and everything that's coming in and happening.
With a storm like that, you know, you can kind of just see it coming, and you just kind of have to sit and take it. That to me is the hardest part, especially, David was saying last week on the program where, you know, they were working up until they worked after. And so a lot of times people are prepping, you know, at night, or they don't have a chance to. And in some cases, you know, it's almost hard to believe, because everything, you know, like in your home or around it seems so sturdy. So, you know, like there's nothing that's going to move this. It's like, you know, it feels so solid, and it doesn't take a whole lot, and then it's all gone. Or it, you know, like with flooding, where it'll just keep coming. And that is the scary part about, you know, you look around, you're like, oh, my figures, for heaven's sakes.
Well, there are still places down here that are still flooding. The St. Johns River is one of the few rivers. It's like the New in West Virginia. It goes from south to north. And I was telling Chaz, I never really thought about it, being from a state that has a ton of rivers and streams and creeks and whatever, and then coming to a state like Florida that has very few of those, a lot of retention ponds and lakes, but you don't see a lot of rivers and streams and that type of thing. And the water just has nowhere to go. And I think that's what a lot of the problems were in Tampa as well. They had already, it was just everything was saturated from Helene. And then you have Milton come in on top of it. And I mean, there's the St. Johns River is going to flood for the next 2 months. They're thinking that it's not going to be going down until after Thanksgiving. And people's homes are still being flooded. I mean, it's still rising in some places. So it's crazy.
You know, one thing though, the mouse is still operating.
Yes,
I
he
know
is.
Anthony and I talked about that. Do either of you two, I mean, do you have thoughts about your first trip back, or, you know, your next trip there? I know the holidays are coming up. What are some things that maybe do they have any events that are coming up for the holidays, or something you're kind of looking forward to, since you're just right there? We'll get our Disney update here.
Well, I mean, the hurricanes did disrupt some of the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween parties. Obviously, they did shut down for a day and a half during Milton. But things were up and running, you know, on Thursday afternoon, like at 3 o'clock or whatever, or maybe Friday morning.
I think they open up Friday morning.
Friday morning. Yeah. So, but yeah, we've been over to Disney Springs. We've already been over to, did we go over to Hollywood Studios the other day? You know, so I mean, it's, you know, things are already back to normal. I mean, we went to Animal Kingdom, and there were a number of big trees that were down in Animal Kingdom. I think probably of all the 4 parks and the 2 water parks, Animal Kingdom had more damage than anything else, because of their trees are so huge. And I mean, it's just, I mean, we went by a couple of trees that just along the roadway that were huge, and, you know, root and everything just laying there. So, but again, we'd had a lot of rain before Helene hit. I mean, it's been a very rainy, wet, late summer, and then we had Helene go through, which Helene wasn't bad for us in Orlando. We had a little bit of rain, but not anything really like, you know, like the rest of the state, you know, the Panhandle did. But when Milton came through, we'd had another system that had just sort of sat over top of Central Florida the weekend 2 or 3 days prior. And so there was so much water, it was just so, everything was saturated so much that when Milton came through, there's a lot of those trees, they were just already loose. And then you get Cat 2 winds, Cat 1, Cat 2 winds coming through, and it just toppled a lot of them. But and a number of people who live in evacuation areas, they evacuated to Central Florida. And so Disney would let take people in as far as reservations. And I think I'm not sure about this, but someone had said that unless you lived in an evacuation area, they weren't letting you actually make a reservation last minute, because they do try to service people who are being evacuated. And I think most of the resorts in the Disney, probably Disney, Universal, both, they're like rated Cat 5. Those buildings are sturdy. Yeah.
So what say you, Anthony? Plans?
So I actually haven't been to the park since September, at least Disney, because a lot of travel this last year. So ICCC took that some time up there, and then came back. Then the hurricane hit, and then after that, I went to DC for a week. So I just got back from that. So I've just kind of been all over the place, bouncing all around. But it was last September. We'll be at Disney on Halloween. We're actually going to Epcot on Halloween, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. But actually, not to discredit the mouse, but on the Sunday after Milton hit, we actually went to Universal. Mm-hmm. Can confirm that Universal was up and running as well, and was a fun time. So helps when you're living in the area. You could be a pass holder at both. So if you want to change up, have a nice change of pace every now and then, you can always go to the other and see what's on the other side of the street sometimes.
Epic Universe is going to be epic when it opens next summer.
Pass holder tickets go on sale tomorrow, so I'm going to try.
And any thoughts to get those new light speed passes with the 2x or 3x times the cost of the actual ticket themselves?
Oh, for Disney, I'll be honest, I'm surprised that they didn't have something like this at least an offering for them. It just makes sense. I think it's only available for people at deluxe resorts anyways, so it's already for the people that can really afford it generally. And let's just say every other park in the world has this type of thing. Universal has it, aside from Disney's the only one that really has this a la carte kind of pass system, which is the $30 to even get access to it, and then there's only a limited number of lightning lanes available throughout the day for each ride. But what they have now plus that is what's available at every other park. So I was at Disneyland Paris in earlier September, and we bought what currently is now available here, which is the fast pass for every ride. You get one ride on each ride with that, and it worked great. So I think it's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction for folks, but I think price-wise, it also is comparable to what Universal charges for theirs. Because Disney just doesn't charge you. Basically, what they're saying is the price isn't going to change for each day. It's a dynamic set price for the day. They already know how much they're charging for the day for that high price. But Universal, if you buy a day of, it's going to be the highest price of that. But if you bought it 2 or 3 weeks in advance, perhaps, then it would be a cheaper rate. But each day it gets closer to the day of, then it goes up. And once it hits that day of price, it's going to be pretty much the same as what your Disney multi-lane Premier Fast Pass. They got to fix the nomenclature of naming these things, but that's the only real problem. They just need to go back to what was called Fast Pass and enjoy the ride that it was.
Good old paper fast passes. Yeah. And I think one of the things that they did with this is, again, I think they're trying to finally, like Anthony said, catch up with places like Universal, who have had the same system for years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Disney fans have been asking, actually, for this same exact thing to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Then when Disney announces it and they put the price tag on it,
yeah.
So it's like, no, it's going to be free, people. Yes, you're going to pay for that. But for
Yeah, it'll be $400 on Christmas Day too. Like, come on now.
exactly, yeah, it will be. I mean,
will be.
for Magic Kingdom. The
Yeah.
other ones won't be as much, but the thing is, it's not really set for people like Anthony and me who are here. The annual pass holders are not going to pay for this, and especially the people. Well, some may. The ones who don't live, close may pay for it, but the annual pass holders that are Florida locals, we're not going to pay for that. This is going to be for those people who are coming. It's their first time, or they only get to come once every 3 or 4 years, or things like that, and they want to make sure that they can get everything in and do everything, because I remember the first few times we came down and it was we got to do. It was like run, and then finally I went, hold on, we're coming down here a lot because we have relatives that live down here, and we were coming down 4 or 5 times a year, and I'm like, this is crazy. I pick one thing you want to do and let's do that, and so
I mean, it's basically
and that's how we're now.
It's basically just the VIP tour without the VIP guide taking you around. So really, people are just taking out their frustrations. I mean, I love when people every so often people are reminded that Disney is not a nonprofit organization. And it baffles me when they're like, yeah, we're trying to make money. We don't exist just for entertainment. It's a part of, we sell entertainment is what we do, and we're going to make money off it.
Well, and that's what somebody else was saying, that if you have a large family, if you have 5 people in your family and you want to do this, then when you look at the price of this new whatever the name of it is, look at that, having the VIP tour. It may actually be cheaper to do a VIP tour than to do this new multi-pass type of thing. So, I mean, it's just something that having a travel agent, or even just talking to the travel people at Disney, it's not just pack up the car and let's go down and buy a ticket and go run around anymore. You have to do some planning, and you have to know what you're doing, which is sad in a way, but that's everywhere. I mean, you have to do that, just like with Universal. The whole thing that they're doing right now, the tickets they're selling, it's like you can buy a 3-day ticket, but only one day is going to be an epic, and they're going to, control how many people are there at the beginning, which I don't blame them. I mean, because it's going to be crazy. So they're gonna keep track of how many feet are on the premises and how many people they can put in there, so it will be a nice experience for people and not be overly crowded, which I think is very smart on their part.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that a trip to Orlando is not a passive vacation. There's a lot of planning. So Ross, I hope you're doing all the groundwork for your trip in December.
Birthday week, Ross. Birthday week. Tell us what we're doing.
I have been talking with our friends at MEI Travel.
Hey, there you go.
There have been those emails, and thank you, Dan Zare, and Coffee with Kenobi. But yep, I have been in discussions there. So looking forward to hopefully seeing you all in almost exactly 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
yes,
speaking
Chaz
of
and Ross share a birthday.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of light plans, Ross, how's the celebration planning going along?
That is very much happening. So we have hotels throughout Japan right now. And an itinerary that will be Hiroshima, Kobe, Kyoto, obviously Tokyo, other areas. So we are mapping out things.
How many days?
2 weeks.
Oh.
So it is great. We're pouring everything into it at this point. What do we want to do? What do we want to hit? And the final 3 days will be Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
So it's get all that other stuff in first, and then it is, I will
all Star Wars all the time.
Yeah.
Sleep on a plane coming home.
Yeah, from being too sedentary before the previous 2 celebrations that I went to, I definitely had big blisters after the first day. I do not think that will be an issue this year. or I guess next year. So that is, we will be getting our miles in and everything along those lines, just walking around and soaking in everything. And it's, we should be there right on the fringe of cherry blossom season as well.
Ooh,
So, and
see the original
Anthony,
cherry
Anthony knows
blossoms,
how
yeah.
special that is in DC.
Awesome.
Because we've both experienced that, but getting to experience that potentially in Japan would be pretty amazing.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm hoping we're driving. We're doing a driving trip here. What was it first full week of November, and we'll be going through some of Mary's backyard in West Virginia, but going through. We're driving to Roanoke, but instead of like going straight, which would be a maniac type trip, I think we're going to go across, see some folks in Toledo, Pittsburgh, and then hopefully going down the following day, going down through West Virginia to Virginia. And hopefully there'll still be some fall color out, and I don't think it's all going to go away, but it has been nice, especially up here, though, as we started to kind of feel more fall weather this week, to see some of the leaves changing and things like that. And I'm sure, Ross, you're seeing some of the same, but it's really nice. But yeah, I mean, travel, right? I think that, I can't wait for this. And I think it kind of ties in. You want to take your time. I think trying to pack in everything is only going to make it a very stressful vacation. That was the whole point of going to like Disneyland, going to Celebration. And I love hearing, Ross, that you're spending extra time, because the hardest selling point of Celebration in Japan, or when it was in London, is like you're traveling to another country and then you're going to lock yourself in a room or in a building with no windows for a number of days, and especially if you're taking family. And I think that kind of makes sense if you're taking family, friends, partners, what have you. You want to add some on there, and we're still trying to like figure out like, is there a way to do it? I think the death knell for us was Easter weekend. It's also Easter weekend here, and it's like that's really a hard ask. But nothing's impossible until it happens. If it doesn't happen, then poor Ross is going to be a correspondent for a lot of people.
Yep.
And he's going to be like, we're going to see how good his international data plan is, or at least how good the Wi-Fi is, where he's like, Ross, tell us about Celebration. And he's going to be like, all right, here we go again. He's going to have his
I'm going to be Al Franken from the old SNL skits with the mobile unit with the antenna on my head.
Well, I'm hoping that they live stream again like they did the last time. The only thing that they did not live stream from London were those 2 or 3 really big main panels.
Pretty big panels, yeah.
Yeah, those main
video
ones
and stuff. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but as you guys know, well, Anthony might not, but as the two of you know, Greg and Ross, I was up every morning watching those live streams and sending texts. All right, this is what happened, because everybody else was working. Like, here's the retired school teacher who's like up at 5:30 watching the live streams and sending texts out. So
I was up, Mary, so I was with you there.
No, and Mary was
took
on
time
point.
off work to be doing that.
I
The
think
only thing that I worry about with the potential live stream of Celebration is with the massive time difference. If a lot of us will be sleeping at the time that they'll be having a lot of these major panels and such, so who knows?
Well, I can tell you I can tell you from living over in the Pacific that, the football games, when we used to get, the live, we would get off of the Armed Forces satellite. I want to say the games were at like 3 and 6 or 4 and 7 or something like that in the morning. And so we would actually, some people would get up and they'd watch them. But we would tape them and then play them later at, like a regular time.
A reasonable time.
So someone we could put, and sell
well,
ads
right
against
now,
them.
as we are talking, it is currently 9:38 a.m. on Thursday in Tokyo. So they are 13 hours ahead of Florida. Now,
Be some late night streaming there.
We'll just have like one Zoom.
Yeah, who's ready for some late night Zoom?
Oh my god! And just having reactions like,
That's not a bad idea.
You'll just get my hollows in the morning.
Yeah,
I'll send over the hollows of me. I'll send them via R2.
Yeah, an open chat, an open room. I mean, people just kind of come and go, and then that's not a bad idea, man.
That's not a bad idea. So what do you think, Ross? What do you think you're going to hear and see like at Celebration?
I'm especially with the Mickelson news. I'm maybe I want this too much, but I want Andor and Rogue One stuff. Like that is, finding out that, or I guess confirmations possibly have gone out about K2SO being definitely in this season. Galen Erso will be there and has a hot toy being released exclusively there. So that's the stuff. And just Andor 2 by itself right now, I'm just, since the last Andor, so much TV hasn't mattered as much.
They still haven't said when the second season is going to come out, have they? So we're guessing after Celebration.
I bet, yeah.
I wonder if they'll do what they did with. Well, I wonder if they're going to do what they did with Kenobi and do like that first episode special screening or something. You know,
we got to watch 2 of Kenobi.
Right.
They played the first 2.
Right. So I wonder if they might try to do something similar with Andor.
My head will just
cool.
burst. Like that's and if I get Pringles cans for Andor 2,
there you go.
Out. Share with Greg Cass.
You can make Greg a happy man. I put it that way.
How does that go through customs?
Keep
just declare it
sealed. Yeah, just declare it.
That's just food there.
It's just food. Just write it down in your little sheet.
Liquid
Paper.
You'd have a problem with, but
yeah.
Just don't do like I did. I had to schedule a trip for my wife a few years ago, and I think I had her connection because there's more than one airport in Japan, as I've come to find. I mean, of course, there's Narita, and then there's so it's like she ended up having to take. They have buses and trains and whatnot, but she had to like come. She came into one airport and had to bus around to another airport. So just be cognizant that if you're booking flights on, if you're not going through MEI Mouse and Travel or another travel agent, just be careful when you're finding like that good deal on a flight that the airport. The 3-letter call signs of the airport all are the same that you're trying to go to. And you're like, oh, hey, I've got a 3-hour connection. Oh, it's in another airport. Shoot. Because Narita is closest to the convention center where Celebration's going to be at, because that's around the Chiba area, which is like east of Tokyo. So if you're looking, I mean, it's going to be, like I said, I'm glad you're doing it early enough because it's going to be, getting your hotel rooms and everything like that. And especially in a place where you're like, I don't know any of these neighborhoods. I don't know what, where this is at. Is it going to be easier for me? And, don't assume anything, start reading, like, how would I get from, X to Z? I know that
we know the train stations already. We know, I'm a little bit of a planner, especially before a trip like this.
No.
But Monica will have an itinerary ready, and it will be the greatest thing ever.
Have a travel buddy. That's what we're saying. It's like, or if you're going with a group, it's like you are responsible. I don't know. Don't put it in the hands of your weakest link. Know your group, and know who the strengths and weaknesses of your group. All right, you are in charge of food. You are in charge of travel. You just enjoy yourself. It's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll double it up at any rate. Hey, by the way, since this is a quasi-news episode, as we were recording this, R.I.P. William Hootkins, who on this day in October 2005 passed away, or as they say, joined the force. And Porkins, one of my favorite Husky rebels, let's just say. Nothing?
Also one of the government operatives in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Top men.
Well, yeah,
right.
Top men. Yep, that's right.
He was the corrupt lieutenant in Batman.
And in Batman, yeah.
So,
Lieutenant Eckhart.
That's right. There was on my Instagram feed, someone had a Japanese version of the old Star Wars CCG game with his autograph in gold. And it was like, that is the dopest card I have seen yet. It's like, it ticks all the, like, A, it's Porkins, B, it's a Japanese variant, and C, it's still Porkins. Anyway, 2, 3, I don't know. Not good.
There's a lady that I follow and have met a couple of times who was big on the Star Cruiser and with Halcyon, and she actually carries around a Porg dressed as Porkins, and she calls him Porkins. It's
Oh,
so cute.
smart.
So cute.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mary, you have been to the HalcyCon, also rest in peace. Had you heard about HalcyCon that happened just recently?
I did HalcyCon. Yes.
Oh,
We did it.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have a report for us,
Yeah.
ready?
Yes,
Well,
here's the new segment.
Sure.
Here we go.
Here we go. Yeah, it's one of those things for the people who went on Star Cruiser. Yes, it was expensive. Yes, there's all kinds of things. Yes, you can go out there and Google whatever. Okay, but for those of us who were lucky enough to go on it, and through Dan's Air and MEI Mouse Travel, there were 19 of us that went June 12th through the 13th of last year, 12th through the 14th, sorry, last year. And so all of these groups that went, I mean, you kind of, our 19 really hung together, and we didn't get to really get to know or meet a lot of other people because we really were kind of pretty tight, and we did our thing. But what happened was, especially after the closure was announced, was that there were these Facebook pages, not Disney putting them up, but just Facebook pages called Sweet Mate Finders. And people would go onto these Facebook pages and say, okay, I have a room that will sleep 5 people. There are 2 of us. We can put 3 more people in there. Who wants to come? And so you had people from all over the world that got to know each other really well. And when you took 3 or 4 different households, it might be, maybe a lot of people traveled by themselves, solo. And so when you had a 4 or 5 different incomes coming in and paying for that one room, then it was very affordable. And so you had a lot of people. I know one woman that was on our cruise. It was like her 4th cruise, 4th or 5th, and she still had another one, coming up. So there were some people that cruised many, many times and got to know, a lot of people. And so then they would, plan together, and it obviously became a scramble once the closure was announced, and people were trying to get there. Fortunately, our cruise was already had already been planned before the closure was announced, but it was after the closure. So unfortunately, Chaz and I weren't able to go again, but we have, over the last year, connected with a number of other people through different things, Facebook pages, different groups, different podcast groups that I have met, folks like Thank the Maker, Princess and Scoundrel, a number of different ones that were very Halcyon organized and loved it. Jedi Talk guys that are here in Orlando, and so there was a couple of people that actually live out west, and they kind of came up with the idea of doing a con just based on the Halcyon. And so they called it the Halcy-Con. And they came in, they were here for MegaCon in February, whenever MegaCon was this year. And this year's been a blur. Like Anthony, this year's been a blur going to different things, different cons and stuff. But and they scouted around, and they found a Wyndham on 192, which is your major touristy, thoroughfare area, and between Disney and Universal and SeaWorld and everything. And so they had a limit of like 600 people because of the size of the resort. And it was all fan created. They sold the tickets. They put the tickets on sale, and they were gone within a couple of hours. And I actually missed the first sale, and they put all of us on a wait list that missed the first sale. I was at MegaCon, actually in a session with the 2 creators of this. Jedi Talk guys were doing a podcast session and panel, and didn't see my email for the wait list, missed the second set of tickets to purchase. And so, but I, continued on with the group and with the Facebook page and whatever. And then they, about 2 months before the event, they put another email out to the waitlist folks, the original waitlist folks who didn't get tickets. And boy, I jumped on them that time. I mean, I saw it like almost instantaneously, and I went, oh, here we go. And so, but it was 2 days, kind of 2.5. Like, people who were staying at the resort, they had like a little mixer together the first evening on Thursday, and then all day Friday and all day Saturday. And then on Sunday, it wasn't official, but a lot of meetups and that type of thing over in Batu, at Galaxy's Edge. But there were things. I mean, we did some lightsaber training, lightsaber spinning. Chaz did one of the lightsaber spinning sessions. One panel was making little felt porgs or paper porgs. There was a lady there that was just fantastic, who was actually one of the creators of Galaxy's Edge, and well, a Star Cruiser to go along with Galaxy's Edge, because Star Cruiser was being developed when Galaxy's Edge was being developed. Yeah. And it's just COVID kind of, I think, kept everything from sort of opening when it was supposed to open. But yeah, she was one of the brains behind the entire immersive experience. And and a number of the actors, they weren't there in an official capacity, especially if they still work for Disney, which a lot of them do. But they were there roaming around and talking, and they were just there as participants. They were there talking to people. And that was the other thing, is like, those folks who went on multiple cruises, they really got to know those actors very well. And we've got to know a few of them as well since then. We didn't really so much, since we only did the one cruise, but it's a great group of people. We came home, I cannot tell you how much swag we came home with. You talk about Taylor Swift and the Swiftie bracelets. Oh my gosh, you haven't seen swag until you've gone to a Star Wars thing like this. So, and Chaz did a fantastic poster, well, not poster, but a postcard. And he has shared it. He has a little page now on Instagram with his art. And so nice. He did put it up there and shared it up there for people to see. But I mean, it was just a lot of fun. And just, I mean, they weren't trying to redo the Halcyon. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to go on and play like we're on the Halcyon again. It was panels, about immersive playing, about how it affected people, about what can we do from here, just different, all kinds of different activities that, and they had a little marketplace, and it was, everybody that was there were people who had cruised, and they have just gone through and created different items, and they now have Etsy, shops and that kind of thing, and everything that was there was all Halcyon based. So it was just seeing the creativity of so many people, and it's just a group that it's really hard to explain if you didn't go and you didn't experience the whole thing. It's kind of the mantra was, we are not a cult, but we kind of are.
I got to put that right in the marketing material. We are not a cult.
We're not a cult.
One way out.
Exactly. Well, and hey, and the Narkina people were there. There was a group of about 20 or 30, maybe more, who all had their Narkina outfits. And Friday evening, they went through the hotel. The poor people who were staying at that hotel, who were not part of HalcyCon. Oof, I felt sorry for them. But they went through the hotel with their, little Narkina outfits on, doing the one way out, and surrounded the pool, jumped in the pool, and swam from one end of the pool to the other end of the pool.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it was hilarious. It was cute. But we had a lot of fun. There's a fellow that lives in Massachusetts who is just such a nice guy. He's with the Droid Builders and the 501st, and he has made a full-size D309, which was your droid that was just in a panel on your wall in your room, in your cabin. Was not physically, I mean, I'm sure it was not physically made as far as we know, just, just animation. And she was amazing. And so, I mean, it was just things like that, just unbelievable. Kinds, and people cosplayed, it was just like going to any other, there goes the cat. It was just like going like any other con with people cosplaying, except most of the people that were cosplaying as their character that they created for their cruise. So look how sweet that face is.
Oh my gosh, that cat is adorable.
Kitty cat.
All you could see was the tail going
just
across.
Tail just hitting Ross's.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so they quickly announced within a week after they announced that they're going to do a second one. So, and there were some issues, it was a first year con. It wasn't anything. Yeah. And that was also the little motto. It's like first year con, that you heard people go, oh, first year con if something didn't go right. And there were a few things that happened that they had no control over, whether it was because of the facility or some other issues that I'm not going to speak to, but we all knew what was going on, and everybody just rolled with it, and we all understood. And I mean, you talk about 600 happy people who got to know new people. I mean, we met a lot of other people that we had not met before, and so now the ideas are coming for next year, but they are already looking for a bigger place to do it, because we were maxed. We had this little tiny Wyndham resort maxed out, yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Well, I'm also glad that they're going to have a second. Everybody can kind of pull off like do something like once, but I think it's like, bringing it back for a second, and then, just allowing the people, it's like, kind of a quasi official get together. And, I think even for that area, cause it was in Kissimmee.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just because, I mean, now I think you're getting a lot more cons in that area, so it's more than just Central Florida Comic-Con or Ocala Comic-Con. There's more things happening in Tampa. And of course you have MegaCon, in Orlando. And so it is kind of nice when you're down there to have those. And of course, since you're so near the parks, hey, as we've been saying before in this program, it's like, make a trip of it. If you're going to go something like that, wrap it around one of these events, and in that way, you're getting a lot of it. Of course, we have what?
A lot of people did. A lot of people did that. They came in Tuesday or Wednesday. They spent time in the parks. They actually, on that Sunday, a bunch of them did Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. They did the Universal Halloween Horror Nights one night. But then, like, I was sitting in one of the panels behind Jeremiah Good of Laughing Place, if anybody follows them, and they do a great job with all the Disney things, and we have a mutual friend who some of you guys also know, and Lou Mongello, and Lou has been with WDW Radio. So Lou has been doing these. He always does these meetups in the parks or at Disney Springs about once a month or every other month, and so he's been on this last tour meetup kick, where he's doing meetups at places that are getting ready to close, such as Tom Sawyer Island, which is going to be a Cars thing here in a couple, kind of like Cars Land and Disneyland, but not as big. And then we were meeting. We were going to meet at, or we did meet at Animal Kingdom. That's the reason we were over there at Dinoland, because come January, Dinoland is going to be gone. And so they're reimagining that too, Encanto, and then the dinosaur ride is going to be an Indiana Jones ride, which is what it is in Disneyland, but with a new story. But so Jeremiah and I were sitting there talking about Lou's meetup for that next Saturday, and Jeremiah pulls out his phone and he says, have you seen this monster that they're talking about coming this way, talking about Milton, Hurricane Milton? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And 2 or 3 days prior to that, it was like, oh yeah, it's not anything big. It's just this little system out there. And then all of a sudden, boom. And so a lot of the people that were there for HalcyCon had to decide, who were planning on staying the rest of the week, had to decide, are we going to ride this thing out? Or are we going to try to go home early? And some people rode it out and some people did go home early, but and that was true for anybody who was down here visiting that week, trying to decide what they were going to do. But yeah, we're looking forward to next year. And there were a few people that were there that had not cruised on the Halcyon, but they wanted to, didn't get a chance to, and they, got a ticket to this, and so got a little taste of what it was. I mean, not really. I mean, we didn't imitate the Halcyon experience, but it was just, talking about it and that type of thing. But one of the things they did have was a sabacc tournament room. And it was amazing. And it was like the 501st or somebody that you'd be familiar with, the setups that they have at like MegaCon or Celebration or some of the other, big conventions. But it was just, the group had put together this amazing room, and it was just different sabacc tables, and everything that they collected those 2 days went to a local charity here in Orlando. I think it was the Give the Kids group. But so it was kind of, I think they raised like $1,300 or something. So it was kind of nice. Cool. But yeah, so it was fun. So we're looking forward to next year.
So Anthony, speaking of which, who just got his first, press credentials for ICCC, would HalcyCon be something that, you would be interested in kind of covering, considering, how much more freedom we have at local or independent events?
Oh, I mean, if ICCC wasn't the same weekend, I would have been at HalcyCon this year. And if I hadn't gotten the press pass at ICCC, I would have been at HalcyCon this year, because I actually got the chance to interview Martin and Christine, who put on HalcyCon this year on a episode a couple months ago for Force Ghost Conversations. So I know the people, as they say, to get in. So now that they've announced the second one officially, which is awesome, definitely we'll be keeping an eye out for that one. We'll be sending them an email when the time is right.
What are the dates for that?
They haven't announced it yet.
No, they haven't announced it. Okay.
No. Yeah, I'm sure they're taking some time off from planning a con and the week after that, but they're going to get right back into it, I imagine. They just did they host a podcast, Heroes of the Halcyon, themselves, and they did their recap episode like last week. So if you want any more tidbits on how it went from their point of view, that's a great episode to listen to. But yeah, they haven't really seen those details yet, which I'm sure they'll get on pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I think they stayed that next week and went and looked at a lot of different venues. So yeah.
Yeah, because they're out in Arizona, so they they don't get to come back.
I can't remember. I knew it was Arizona or Nevada. I can't remember which one it was. So yeah, they're out west.
Well, Ross, speaking of dates, another entity put out their dates for January 11th, 2025, and that is Tom Gross and Steam Into Star Wars, which I know you and I are no stranger to that. Do we have any early indications of a possible Ross landing at Washington Community High School in Washington, Illinois?
As of now, as soon as the email came out, I was just like, fantastic. Let's fire away again. And Greg, it was fun that you and I got to take over Teachers in the Dungeon for part of an episode last time. And so going around and talking to some of the professionals running the games and things like that. So again, just an awesome event, a great opportunity to just hang out with friends in a low-key environment, but that is the first con that so many kids are going to.
Mm-hmm. And, this event, it draws in the 501st, that they, and there'll be a podcast stage. There was a big gaming room that they kind of opened up. It was kind of like on one of the tiers above the basketball court, like off on the side where you could see a basketball game going. But that proved to be pretty popular. The one thing I like, Ross, is the fact that they've expanded the hours. So now it's 9:30 to 2:30. which I think was the only thing that I was like, man, I wish it was a little longer because, once we do our podcast stuff, Coffee with Kenobi does their live show from the podcast stage. I get to do one, and then the Hyperion Hub, John Elise and company, did one. After we did that, and then did the panel. Our panel, because I think he has an authors and then a creators panel. There wasn't a whole lot of time left, so I'm kind of looking forward to, knocking out a show, helping on other things, doing a panel, and then, maybe sneaking into a game or two. I think that would be exciting to kind of go around this year. So I'm excited that, this event can draw up, 300-400 people. And especially given the weather that you had to drive in, you and I drove in, Ross. I remember you telling me when you got here watching the drifting snow going across, these very long and stretches, that it was really nice to see that on the other end.
Yeah. And I think I've had snow twice of the 3 years that I've gone, but it's not a terrible drive. So it's just nice. And especially now that I have such a short commute, I don't get as much podcast listening at this point. So when I do get a long drive, it is just like, oh, let me catch up with all my old friends a little bit more here.
Yeah, that's with retiring, that's hit me. I have to, as I'm doing housework now, I'm like stuck it in my ear,
Oh, and it'll be great once, we hear Aaron and David, get back to doing their thing. I know that they're coming up on episode 200. I know we're in the high 190s. I lost count. Sorry, Aaron. But it's amazing just that how long they've gone, and that's just 200 episodes of reactions. If you remember, Aaron and David were doing a lot of Rebels reactions and Resistance reactions on the Coffee with Kenobi network. So it's like they've been doing it for a long time, and even before I met them, listening to their show, you get to really know people, and I think and Ross with the Album Cockpit podcast, it was those kind of settings where you really get to know someone through the music that they enjoy, and a lot of those episodes that you have, I know you've had to kind of rejigger it a little bit, but still, those episodes are there for people to go back to and listen, and and Anthony, it's been fun to kind of hear ICCC. Sorry, I forgot how many C's in it. But knowing that we got to go down there last year with Ross and Monica and the Mulders, and get to experience all that with folks, because we're between celebrations, so it's not that often we all get a chance to get together, but it's the podcast, I think, that are that constant glue that help keep everything together between the times that we can see each other in person in the zero time, when we're not watching the clock of a Zoom call going, how much time do we have left? When do I have to go? Those are the kind of things like, I was talking with, I recorded an episode with Dan Zer the other night, and, busy man, and he had an hour, and I had an hour and 1 minute. But it was just so great to kind of catch up and just hear. So I'm looking forward to seeing these two back. And, hey, if we have to do another episode, I will draft more people. It's like you thought selective service was tough. Just wait till you get a text from me at a weird hour going, hey, are you available? And just know that, the next thing out of my mouth in the text bubble is going to be, all right, I'll bring my mic, whatever it is. Anyway, but that's enough of me. Before we go, I just want one last little thing, and I know this could probably go on for another couple hours, but I know people's time are precious. Has anyone had a chance to look at the new Battle of Jakku comics? I picked a couple up, issues 1 and 2 over the weekend. I'm trying to, I've had to kind of swear off comics just because the space, but I was starting to kind of like, I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to pick a small series. It's okay, 12 issues is not a small series. But I'm like, all right, I could probably find room for these, but I'm trying to get back in that story. Has anybody else had a chance to check them out or have any thoughts?
I'm reviewing the entire series for Fantha Tracks. So the first 2 are up there. It is the most excited I have been about a comic book series in so long. And after reading the first 2, it only makes me want the third one out that much faster.
All right.
It honestly picks up while Darth Vader's body is still on the funeral pyre.
It's still burning.
Oh, wow.
So it is already through the 2 issues. It has been Endor, Tatooine, just multiple locations. Ooh, that's a great
Variant
there
cover, by the way.
too. But you talked about resistance reactions. You get to meet a younger Yarick Yeager. And when he was involved, so I was thrilled by that. Hez Dameron is in it. So Poe's dad is in it. It is brilliant, and I love the Aftermath books and the Alphabet Squadron books. And it feels like they are tying very closely into those and kind of leading into it. So I'm loving it so far. And it's been a while. Like, I had kind of gotten away from the comics. But when this came out, I was just like, oh. And Greg, kind of that same point of, okay, here's a limited defined 12 issue series, and it's 3 sets of 4. So there is Star Wars, The Battle of Jakku, but there's Insurgency Rising is 1 through 4. Republic Under Siege is 5 through 8. And Last Stand is 9 through 12.
Okay. Yeah, because there was like a second story, and I was like, huh, what?
Yeah, so it the first one came out October 2nd, and it looks like the last one is probably going to come out in early February. But it's awesome so far, and it's apparently going to lead directly into the sequel trilogy. So we're getting that absolute bridge from Return of the Jedi into the sequel trilogy.
Ross, do you think they'll, after the last one comes out, do you think they'll go through and do the book where they put all the comics together
Like
in
the
under
omnibus
one cover? Yeah.
I
I
can't
imagine
imagine they wouldn't. It actually fits perfect to do that, and I bet that was part of the plan.
I've gotten some of those, like with Dr. Aphra and some of the Darth Vader. That's what because to buy them month to month or whatever just drives me crazy.
Well, and then you go there, and then you might have one. There might be an overprinting of number 1, and then there's like no number 2s. I was lucky enough. I got a variant number 1 cover, and it wasn't like $12. It was only like 4 or 5, and then the second one was like $4. And, after seeing prices of, look at that cover. It's got Maul and Obi-Wan on it.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so that's a variant to the second issue there, too.
Yeah, this
so
is
with Obi-Wan and Maul.
Who's this? Alex Segura is the writer for this. I like the art. Sometimes one of the things that kind of turned me off of the comics was sort of like this over emphasis on realism, where you'd see like the faces kind of be slightly off of the body because they started there first. And you're like, okay. And then they'd have these very textbook, but this was I like the art was very expressive. And it was really nice. And, it's funny after like seeing how the prices of cards have gone up, even blasters, I was like, $4 or $5. Oh, this is cheap. I used to complain about when they were 75 cents went up to $1.25. Now I'm like, wow, as opposed to like buying a blaster. But anyway, yes, I do encourage you buying blasters of Chrome Star Wars out there. But anyway, I'm happy that you like it, Ross, because I kind of went through it, and you're like, you have to almost kind of train yourself to come. Oh yeah, this is a comic. It's a little long form. It's going to be like, who is this character? But the one thing I did like is that they do the digital codes for them. It's a little harder to redeem. They have to make you kind of go through a couple of hoops. They email you a code, but at least you could get it. So that way later, even if you can download the Marvel Unlimited app, and even you don't have to subscribe to it, they'll be like, as long as you have that account, you can access your comics. So I had all the comics I had because we're coming up on 10 years of the Marvel Star Wars license, being renewed and so forth. And so I still have a lot of books. I had to purge myself of a lot of books, but I still have them there as long as I have the account. And if you have like an iPad or something like that, then it's nice at least to have. So, and then this way I'm not doing like 4 or 5 books a week where I have to go through and, like, please can I have the code for this? Even though it's like, so it's probably a little cheaper, and then they don't have to have the pull off thing, and nobody can read the code and everybody complains at any rate like that. So, but good. I'm happy, and that kind of leads me into. I do have to let you guys go, but I did want to give you some space to let me know let the audience know where they can find you. But if y'all thought that you were going to get out of a Star Wars Reactions episode without a dad joke, Star Wars dad joke, sadly mistaken. I've been having fun with some of these, and once again, Aaron does a lot better. But I'm gonna let's see if I can do. I still got a couple on this big list that I got from the same place. I mean, I'm not gonna spend an hour looking for this. But I did like this one. So perk up or be prepared. When did Anakin's Jedi Masters know he was leaning towards the dark side? When did Anakin's Jedi Masters know he was leaning towards the dark side? I love the
We don't know, Greg. When?
You've played this game before. I like it. In the 6th grade. Anthony's like, the heck kind of show is this? All right. All right. If you didn't like that one, here's another one. Oh, this is bad. Greg Cass.
Right up Aaron's alley.
Yeah, Greg Cass, forgive me. All right. What did Obi-Wan say at the rodeo?
We don't know, Greg. What did Obi-Wan say at the rodeo?
Use the horse, Luke. That was with feeling.
So that's a good one. I like that.
Okay. I got to put the voice work into it. I think that's what's got to make these sell. Anyway. All right. Enough of that. I want to thank each of you for coming on here and giving us another Storm Reactions. And like I said, we're getting ever so closer to the return, the welcome return to whatever audience is left after I have wrecked the place of Aaron and David. But let's start from the top. Mary Perdue, where can people find you Star Warsin'?
Well, normally you can find me the most on Instagram, just at Mary N Chaz, MaryNChazz.
Awesome. Anthony?
Yeah, so thanks again for having me on here. You can find my podcast, Force Ghost Conversations, any place you can find podcasts generally these days, mostly Apple and Spotify particularly. But if you also want to continue the conversation with us, you can find us on pretty much every social media site, X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Just search for Force Ghost Conversations again, and we'll be there in some capacity.
You don't have to be a Philly fan, but it helps.
We'll call you out if you're not.
All right. And last but certainly not least, Ross Hollebon, the busiest man at Butler University. Where can people find you?
Yeah, definitely on Fantatracks. So fantatracks.com. And then make sure you're listening to Force Ghost Conversations and the Rebel Base Card podcasts. I'm so fortunate to be able to spend a Wednesday night with you guys, and whenever this is going to go up there, but that's special, and being here with Mary as well. So let's everyone out there keep supporting the cause, and long live the rebellion.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we had there's a lot of shows stacked for November. I am full and getting fuller, but we have some really good guests coming up, including Stefan Leonardi. He is a tops artist from Paris, and we had a chance to talk to him. He will not be the only artist, hopefully, this month. We also talked to Dan Zer, talking about the recent Rancho Obi-Wan announcement that they are going to become, hopefully, the Saga Museum of Star Wars Collectibles. We also have, I think, Sal Berry, who was in one of our episodes. He's from the Puck Junk podcast. He's going to talk about the Star Wars Comtech figures. That was an episode he's been pitching me for a long time, and it did not disappoint. As a matter of fact, there was an eBay auction that went down. I have a Comtech device that's still sealed. It won't be sealed once I get it, but that'll be coming. I didn't even realize I had a Comtech chip that I got at Celebration Anaheim. It was in my swag box, and so I was like, I am all ready to Comtech out and hopefully record some of these, because I'm like, these got to go in the podcast somewhere. I don't know how I'm going to work them in. They're so bad, but they're so good. So a lot of good stuff there. At any rate, all right. Let's see. Now we're gonna let's see if we can have a little fun here. I want to take this out. We are gonna record some things off on the side, but Who wants to close this out for me? I'm looking for volunteers. Who can give me the best elegant discussion for a more civilized age? Or I'll just start picking people.
It's Anthony fire away. He's got his radio background.
There we go.
This is Star Wars Reactions, elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
Not bad. All right, folks. Good night.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions, elegant discussion for a more civilized age.